Alright, you freedom-loving booze hounds, settle in for a star-spangled cinematic extravaganza that'll make your eyeballs bleed red, white, and blue. Today I'd like to dive headfirst into the ultimate 4th of July movie marathon, my top 10 picks. Because nothing says America quite like explosions, flag-waving hot dogs, warm beer, and questionable historical accuracy. A few of the movies on this list I guarantee you've seen, and you may love or detest some of these, but this is my celebratory list, so sound off on what some of your favorites on this most sacred holiday are. I'm gonna try to keep this video relatively short because we've got some celebrating to do, pools to jump into, and fireworks to illegally set off. So crack open a cold one, stuff your face with some apple pie, and let's celebrate our independence the only way we know how, by watching other people do the hard work while we sit on our patriotic asses.
Let's fucking go.
You suck, you jackass.
First, I'd like to start with a couple honorable mentions. No list would be complete without some that actually missed it, but were this close to being on it. So let's start with Glory, that was directed by the very underrated Edward Zwick. And I'd say the best way to describe this movie is like Saving Private Ryan meets Roots. It has a stellar cast featuring Denzel Washington in an Oscar-winning performance, Morgan Freeman being wise and awesome as always, and Matthew Broderick playing the same character, only this time he has a mustache. This is a badass movie that's well worth a watch if you've never seen it. And for the next honorable mention is the movie Hidden Figures, and I think this movie's great. Hidden Figures is about 3 black women who were smarter than a room full of white guys with pocket protectors at NASA in the 1960s. They were able to use their big brains to help America win the space race against those vodka-chugging Ruskies. It's a fun movie that I'm sure is very historically inaccurate, but I've never cared enough to do the research. Anyway, with those out of the way, let's kick off the real list. Number 10, Rocky IV. I'm not sure I could live with myself if I didn't put at least one of the Rocky movies on this list, and there's no better choice than the testosterone-adjacent one that finds our titular hero drenched in sweat and patriotism, as he takes on a Soviet punching machine named Ivan Drago. Why, you might ask? Well, because Drago turned Apollo Creed into a human punching bag.
If he dies, he dies.
So Rocky heads to the USSR, trains by lifting logs and running through snow, and then proceeds to punch communism right in its stupid face. It's got more montages than a fitness infomercial, and enough Cold War tension to make your grandma's hair curl. Nothing really says America like an Italian stallion beating the vodka out of a roided up Russian while James Brown screams about living in the USA. It's so patriotic, I think it'll make a bald eagle cry. As a kid, this was my favorite Rocky movie, and you know what? Probably still is. Number 9, National Treasure. Not only does Nick Cage's hair defy gravity and all logic in this movie, but when he utters this beautiful line,
"I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence,"
you know you're in for a good time. National Treasure happens to be a cinematic national treasure in that you have Cage and the dude from The Hangover steal the Declaration of Independence. Why, you might ask? Well, because there's a treasure map on the back. Duh. He teams up with a knockoff Indiana Jones and a hot librarian to outrun the FBI and some British bad guys helmed by the great Sean Bean, who honestly looks like he died a little on the inside while making this movie. Ironically, not for real this time. The plot happens to play out like Dan Brown wrote a heist movie while chugging Red Bull, popping Adderall, and watching the History Channel. If you haven't seen this, you're truly missing out on one of the most ridiculous, over-the-top American history lessons ever put to film. It belongs in the National Archives Museum next to the Declaration for its totally ridiculous awesomeness. Number 8, Apollo 13. Ron Howard directs this Tom Hanks gem and his crew of astronaut buddies as they decide to take a leisurely trip to the moon, but their spacecraft decides to throw a tantrum halfway there.
Houston, we have a problem.
Suddenly, it becomes a movie like MacGyver in space, with the lads trying to MacGyverate their way back to Earth using nothing but duct tape, math, and good old American ingenuity. Tom Hanks proves that even in space, Americans don't know the metric system, but this is America. We're too great to be bothered with anything other than the imperial system.
We're better than you, and we know it.
This is a terrific movie that utilizes practical effects masterfully, and it's got more tension than a nun at a penguin shoot, and enough scientific jargon to make your head spin faster than a centrifuge. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out on the most thrilling story of how not to die in space. Number 7, Born on the 4th of July. Who says Tom Cruise plays the same role in every movie? In Born on the 4th of July, he trades his volleyball and fighter jet for a wheelchair and a whole lot of angst. He plays Ron Kovic, a patriotic dude who goes to Nam thinking he's going to be the next John Wayne, only to come back paralyzed and pissed off. Cruise goes from gung-ho Marine to anti-war activist faster than you could say, "Where'd my legs go?" It's like watching America's golden boy have an existential crisis for 2.5 hours. And I think Cruise acts his perfectly coiffed hair off, proving he's more than just a pretty face with a killer smile. This is easily the most depressing film on this particular list, but it's a hell of a watch that deserves your eyeballs, and it'll make you appreciate your freedom more than any fireworks display ever could. I also think it's one of Oliver Stone's best efforts from the director's chair, full stop. Number 6, The Sandlot. I think The Sandlot is the cinematic equivalent of a warm apple pie stuffed with baseball and childhood shenanigans. As a 39-year-old jackass, part of growing up in the 90s was watching this movie on loop. And it's got more Americana than a bald eagle wearing star-spangled underpants. You've got a bunch of kids playing baseball, chasing girls, and battling a slobbering hellhound named The Beast. If you're a millennial with Rugrats of your own, this is the perfect 4th of July flick to remind you of the good old days when summer meant freedom, not just sweating through your shirt while chaperoning little Timmy's t-ball practice. This is the perfect movie to put on during the hot summer days to relive your youth through your pint-sized Patriots. This movie encapsulates the idea of the American dream one home run at a time.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Number 5, Independence Day.
Welcome to Earth.
How does one craft this list and not include this particular movie? You'd have to be insane not to. Ironically, this isn't the only Roland Emmerich movie on this list, so we have ourselves one hell of a patriotic German on our hands here. I think Independence Day is the guiltiest of guilty pleasures by being the cinematic equivalent of chugging a keg of patriotism while riding a bald eagle into battle. Will Smith punches aliens, Jeff Goldblum hacks the universe with the 90s laptop.
Chupacabras, the goat killer of Mexican folklore. Folklore is stories from the past that are often fictionalized. Fictionalized to heighten drama. Drama student. Students at colleges usually have bicycles. Binary. It's binary code.
And Bill Pullman gives a speech so rousing it'll make your stars and stripes stand at attention. It's got more explosions than a fireworks factory fire and just enough cheese to clog those arteries. If you're looking for the perfect 4th of July flick to watch while nursing your hangover and contemplating America's greatness, this is it. It's cheesy, it's ridiculous, it's over-the-top 90s action, and it's a must for this holiday. Also, Randy Quaid absolutely chews the scenery in all of his screen time, and he is quite possibly the most likable drunk in the history of film in this movie.
Hello, boys! I'm back!
Number 4, Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick.
You two characters are going to Top Gun. For 5 weeks, you're gonna fly against the best fighter pilots in the world.
How do you include one Top Gun and not the other on this particular list? I was just going to include Top Gun Maverick because it's a modern masterpiece of a blockbuster, but the original Top Gun is absolutely necessary as well. With their beautiful powers combined, they're an unstoppable force of patriotic cinema with a side of dad rock sprinkled in. In the original, Tom Cruise's Maverick flies planes, plays shirtless volleyball, and serenades bar patrons with all the subtlety of a sonic boom. It's basically a recruitment video for the Navy with better abs. Fast forward 30 years and Maverick's back, still cocky as hell, and defying the laws of aging like he defies the laws of physics. This time he's teaching a bunch of young hotshots how to be as awesome as he is, which honestly is like trying to teach a fish how to climb a tree while looking impossibly cool. These flicks are amazing. They're basically the equivalent of an apple pie stuffed with fireworks wrapped in the Constitution. They've got more high-octane action than your uncle's illegal fireworks display, and enough patriotic chest thumping to make a bald eagle salute. If you haven't seen these films, do you even Merca, bro? Number 3, The Patriot. Wait, this is the other Roland Emmerich film on this list?
Yup!
The Patriot is what happens when a German director decides to make the most American movie ever. Mel Gibson trades his kilt for a tricorn hat and goes full Papa Bear on the redcoats after they mess with his kids. It's allegedly got more historical inaccuracies than a drunken history lesson, but what do I know? I wasn't there. Also, Who gives a shit? There's enough patriotic violence in this to make Uncle Sam blush. Gibson hacks his way through the Revolutionary War with a tomahawk and a bad attitude, turning more redcoats into fertilizer than you can count. It's perfect for the 4th of July if you want to feel patriotic while also questioning your moral compass. Could there be a more detestable villain than Jason Isaacs in this? There's a certain rage that boils inside me just at the very thought of his punchable smarmy face. Anyway, the Patriot will surely keep the historical advisors crying in the corner, but put this on to watch Mel Gibson make America great again, one brutal axe murder at a time. Number 2, Team America World Police. So I just received my 20-year anniversary 4K physical copy of this film, and I can't believe this film came out 20 years ago. God, I'm old. So this movie could never be made today. Well, I say that, but Matt and Trey tend to not give a shit, so maybe they could make this movie today. Let's get a sequel, dudes. I consider this film one of the greatest comedies ever made, and I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you probably feel a similar way. Team America World Police is what happens when you give the South Park dudes a bunch of puppets, explosions, and enough booze to kill a small nation. It's got more offensive jokes than a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving and enough political incorrectness to make a Twitter mob spontaneously combust. So if you haven't seen it, it's about a team of puppet superheroes who fight terrorism by blowing up half the world, all while battling Hollywood and a lonely Kim Jong-il who just wants a friend. It's got puppet sex, vomiting, and more F-bombs than a sailor with Tourette's. This is the only comedy to watch on 4th of July, especially if you want to celebrate America by offending literally everyone. And let's face it, in today's world of safe spaces and trigger warnings, this movie would cause more meltdowns than a nuclear reactor in a heat wave. If you've never seen the unrated cut of this flick, make that your Independence Day priority. Your inner 12-year-old will thank you.
I promise I will never die.
Number 1, Jaws.
Now, this is not a boat accident. It wasn't any propeller. It wasn't any coral reef. And it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was a shark.
I mean, is there really any other option for number 1 here? Jaws is not only one of the greatest films ever, it is absolutely the greatest 4th of July film ever made. I watch it every year at this exact time. If you're unfamiliar with the film that literally created the term blockbuster, well, let's briefly go over it. It's about a giant fish with an appetite for tourist tartare terrorizing a seaside town just in time for the 4th of July. Enter a cop who's afraid of water, a rich boy with a shark fetish, and a crusty sea dog who's one shark away from a Moby Dick complex. They set sail to turn this overgrown goldfish into sushi, and what follows is more American than apple pie stuffed with fireworks and deep fried in freedom. This fishy bastard shows up just in time to ruin everyone's 4th of July beach party, proving that even marine life hates tourists. It's the perfect patriotic flick, Americans versus nature with explosions, memorable one-liners, and a boat that's definitely not big enough. If you don't think this is the best 4th of July movie ever made, you're about as sharp as a marble and probably couldn't pour water out of a boot with instructions on the heel.
He's joking around. Feels so good when he jokes.
Even though this movie's almost 50 years old, the practical shark used is more convincing than anything made since. Here's a toast to Spielberg's genius and Quint's Indianapolis speech. Alright, you cinematic connoisseurs, we've reached the end of this star-spangled journey through America's finest celluloid offerings. If you've made it this far without passing out from the patriotic overload or alcohol poisoning, congratulations! You're a true red, white, and blue warrior. Let's get at it in the comments. Are there any flicks you would add to this list? What do you like to watch in celebration of America's birthday? If America ain't your cup, you need not apply. If you like this sarcastic mess of a video, do me a favor and drop a like, give a sub, and send me your loving or hate-filled comments below.
I am nourished by your hatred!
Now, as the credits roll on this video faster than my liver processes whiskey, remember, the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone, but what do I know? I'm but a mere jackass with a YouTube channel and an unhealthy obsession with explosions and flag waving. I'll try to do better next time, but let's face it, that's about as likely as Michael Bay directing a quiet period drama. Catch you later, friends.
That talks too much. I'm just a jackass of all trades. Don't know shit. I'll keep on talking, acting like I'm so legit.